Welcome. My name is Kurt Salisbury. I'm Director of Adoptions here at Amplify. And what we're going to do is we're going to build some more intermediate type of creations here in Amplify Classroom. I love Amplify Classroom as this open sandbox. It allows me to be creative, but we're going to level things up and try to make some more complicated things as we go. And really the idea here is just to give you some tools and things that you can use to kind of make your creations and things come to life. And so, what we're going to do first, one of the first things that people learn to do, or one of the first things we get often asked about, is how can student input information into an activity and have that information start appearing in other locations, whether it be their name, whether it be some values, some numbers, whatever they're trying to do, how can we make that happen? And so, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go and just show you an example of what we're going to build. And let's hop over here real quick. And I just call this connected components because essentially what I did was connect some of our things together. And what this will look like is I will come in and you'll notice up here it says enter your name. So I'm going to enter my name, Kurt. And notice my name appears up here as I enter it. And so we can make values and inputs that whatever comes out of it appear multiple places and use it for lots of different things. Or maybe you don't want text, you want a value. So we can enter a value, something like that. And notice if as I enter a value, it appears there on the screen. And notice what happened here on screen 3. I have my name that I entered and the value that I have there. So really we took this text, we took this numeric, we made it appear on a different screen. And I love any way that we can honor students by letting their ideas become part of the problem, part of the situation, part of the context, no matter what you're doing or what you're teaching here. And so we're going to do that. And so I'm going to hop back over here to Amplify Classroom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over, just like we've done before, we're going to create a new activity. So I'm going to come over here to the left under My Stuff, select it, and I'm going to create a custom activity, that very first one up there at the top. And I'm going to hit Create a New Activity. And so I just need to name this activity. So I'm going to just call it Connections here. We're going to connect components. You can call it connect components, whatever. I'm just going to call it connections because we're going to connect some stuff. We're going to make some stuff appear in new locations. Of course, you can add a description, but I'm going to just go ahead and create a new activity. I'm going to use the default styling that we have here. So here we go. We are in our activity builder in Amplify Desmos Classroom here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my note. I'm going to drag a free response. I'm going to bring those things in. And so I'm going to drag a note because that's where the information is going to appear. And I'm going to drag a free response because that's where students are going to enter their information. And so I'm going to have those two components on the screen. And of course, you can move them around. You can set it side by side. That is totally up to you. I'm just going to leave them stacked here. We have them together. And so the note is where the information is going to appear. And then the free response is the information the student is going to put in. And so what I need to do is, if I'm going to connect them, I've got to at the very least name the component that the information is coming from. So this bottom component down here, this answer box, I need to give it a name. You can name it whatever you want to. You can name it Bob if you want to, but I'm going to just keep it simple and call it input 1 because we're going to actually add more inputs to it, but you can name it whatever you want. So there's input 1. And then here is where we're going to actually go inside the computation layer, where we're actually going to go inside a component so that we can connect the things together. So I'm going to hop over here on this first one, and these arrows right here, if you hover over it, says edit computation layer script. That is where we're going to build our connection. And so I'm going to click it. And notice it takes me inside. This is our computation layer script inside Amplify Classroom. And you'll notice over here, there's even documentation on how to help use it. So if you get stuck, you can always hit documentation. They'll show you some of the things that you can use. We have sinks and sources, which is basically what we're pulling and where we're pulling it from. But I'm going to just keep it real simple. Remember, we named that other component input 1, so we're going to have to use that. And what I want to pull is the name. And so I can call this whatever I want, but I'm going to just call it name. This is what I'm deciding to make it, equals, and I want it to be equal to the whatever I put inside that input. So I'm going to type input. Notice as soon as I start typing input, it automatically appears. So when you name components, it's going to make it automatically appear before you ever finished typing, which is great. So you know that you named it and you know where it's coming from. And then after you input it, or actually you type your input or whatever you called it, put a dot. And notice I have some options when I put a dot. These are what I'm going to be using to kind of guide the information. So I've got content, script, submitted, that sort of thing. We're just going to use content because I'm pulling that name, that content from it. And there we go. That is simply the computation layer I needed to pull the name from input one. And so we've got it. We're pulling it across. We've made this connection. And now I need it to appear on my screen. So on my note, there's a couple different ways to do it. I could have stayed inside the computation layer and written it that way. There's even another way you can do it. You can put it in line if you want to. And so I'm going to do it that way because that's the way I feel like doing it. So we're going to type something like enter your name. And then below it, I'm going to put hello. And I'm going to make now that connected piece appear here. And notice down here at the bottom right, we can insert a value from computation layer if I hover over it. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select it. I'm going to hit name. And there we go. So it's going to say hello and whatever I put in that box. And if we want to preview it, I can hit that preview button. I can type my name beautifully. Notice it appears right up here. I love it. It is great. Let's take it one more step here and let's add the number piece to it. And then we're going to connect them all together in a third screen and we'll kind of be done here. So let's add the next one here. And let's go ahead and kind of like before, we're going to put a note. But remember, I wanted a value this time. And so I'm going to put, instead of the free response, I'm going to put a math response. So if you want students to input a value, great. Use the math response here. I'm going to stack them just like I had before. I'm not going to do anything different. Now, the one thing I need to do is I need to name my bottom component, what I'm pulling it from. And so I need to call it something else. So I did the first one, input one. I'm going to be real original and do input two. Again, you can name it whatever you want to. I'm going to call it input two. And then we're going to do exactly what we did before, kind of rinse and repeat here. And I'm going to go into the computation layer script of my note. And now I'm going to define that number. So before I called the first one name, I'm going to just call this one number. So let's type number. And I'm going to put equals. And then I'm going to type input instead. And notice when I start typing input, I've got two things up here. I'm going to use input two because that is where I'm pulling my number from. I'm going to push dot. And then notice I have all these other different options. Because it's being pulled from a math input, I've got different options. But the one that I like using here is numeric value. So it is going to pull the value of that number here. So I'm going to hit done. And then just like before, I've got to add information on my note. So I'm going to type enter a number. And then I'm going to use that value from the computation layer script number to appear here. And now, just like before, if I preview this, notice when I input my number appears there under enter a number. And it starts off with this NaN. That just means not a number. That means that there's nothing for it to evaluate. But as soon as I put in a value, notice that number changes there. So the last thing we were going to do, we're going to put a little bow on this. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to finish it up. We're going to pull a number. We're going to pull a name. We're going to pull it all together in one place, in one location. And I'm going to add one more screen here for fun here. I'm going to put a note because that's all I'm going to need because I'm not going to input anything else. I'm going to go in the computation layer. And if you wanted to be really clever, you could copy these from the previous one, but I'll retype them again so you can see it. I'm going to pull two things. I'm going to use two things here. The first thing is I'm going to use name, which was input one dot content. And then I'm going to use number, which is, I'm going to call number. I'm going to call that input two dot numeric value. Notice content for the name, value for the number that I'm going to pull here. Now I'm going to hit done. And I'm going to type something up, something funsies, whatever I want. Let's put name, looked up in the sky and saw. You've got to be really careful here. Number, stars. Beautiful. I love it. Great, amazing. Of course, you can make whatever you want to. The creativity part is on you here. But notice if I preview it, let's go back here to the very beginning. I'm going to type in my name. Hello, Kurt. Type in a number, 100. hit next, notice Kurt looked up in the sky and saw 100 stars. So I was able to connect components inside the screen, across the screen. I was able to connect numbers and values there to make what I want appear on the screen there for students. And so, as you imagine, once you start learning how these connections work, you can start evaluating and start doing all sorts of different things to make your lessons have a little more really student buy-in and student choice, because they can start using their ideas and their values to drive what you're doing as far as instruction. So hopefully you enjoyed this little look on how you can start connecting components by dipping your toe a little bit into some computation layer.